Snow fell softly outside the window as Faria stared at her phone, reading her mother's message over and over again. Don't come to the family reunion this year. We've decided it's better that way. Her fingers trembled. The blinking Christmas lights reflected in her teary eyes. She could almost hear the laughter of her siblings through the phone. The same people who'd once promised that family means forever. She placed her wrapped gifts for them under the tree, gifts no one would ever open. But as she wiped her tears, her face hardened. If they don't want me this Christmas, she whispered, then next Christmas, they'll be begging for an invitation to mine. Faria sat on her small couch, the blinking lights of her Christmas tree reflecting softly on her face. Her phone still showed her mother's message, short but sharp enough to cut through her heart. She wasn't welcome at the family reunion. For a moment, she thought it was a mistake. She read it again and again, hoping it would somehow change. But it didn't. Her mother, Adira, had made it clear. It's better that way, she had written, as if Faria's presence would ruin their celebration. Her siblings, Nico and Rami, didn't defend her. In fact, the family chat soon filled with laughing emojis and light jokes, as if her absence was something to celebrate. They had always seen her as the dull one, the quiet middle child with nothing impressive to show. Nico owned a fashion brand, Rami was a manager at a tech firm, and both often reminded her that her little candle shop was just a hobby for lonely people. Their words had always stung, but this time they burned deeper than ever. Faria looked around her tiny apartment. Shelves were stacked with candles she had made by hand, soft colors, gentle scents, each one crafted with care. But now, all she could see were reminders of failure. She had spent the year working hard, dreaming that maybe this Christmas, her family would notice her effort. Instead, she was being erased from their picture-perfect celebration. The sound of laughter from a neighbor's apartment drifted in, mixed with Christmas music. Faria's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. She got up, picked one of her candles and lit it. The small flame flickered, glowing against the dark. She stared at it quietly, her reflection trembling in the light. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, "If they think I'm a disappointment, I'll show them what that disappointment can become." She wiped her tears and opened her notebook, where she wrote new ideas for her candles. New scents, new designs, and new name. She decided she would no longer wait for her family to accept her. She would build something so bright that even they couldn't ignore it. That night, as snow began to fall outside, Faria sat by her desk, pouring wax and shaping wicks. Her heart was still broken, but inside her, something had changed. The pain had turned into fire. A quiet fire that would soon light up her whole world. The morning after Christmas, Faria woke up with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. The silence in her apartment felt louder than ever. She wanted to cry again, but instead, she took a deep breath and walked to her work table. The unfinished candles sat there, waiting, as if reminding her she still had something to hold on to. She lit one of them, watched the flame dance and whispered, "If no one believes in me, I will." From that day, her nights turned into long hours of work. While the world slept, Faria mixed wax and oils, testing scents that told stories of peace, strength, and hope. She experimented with everything: lavender for calm, sandalwood for courage, and jasmine for love. Her small apartment smelled like a dream. She started redesigning her packaging. 2 simple, elegant boxes with the words "light" within written in gold letters. It became her brand name, inspired by what she finally realized: no one could dim the light that came from within her. Days turned into weeks. Faria recorded short videos of her process, pouring wax, tying ribbons, writing small thank you notes by hand. She uploaded them quietly, not expecting anything. But one evening, something changed. Her phone started buzzing nonstop. Notifications kept popping up. A famous lifestyle influencer had found one of her videos, bought a candle, and posted about it, calling it the most heartfelt brand I've seen in years. Faria's heart raced. Within hours, thousands of people visited her page. Orders poured in faster than she could count. Her inbox filled with messages, customers saying her candles brought warmth to their homes. Her story gave them strength. For the first time, her work wasn't being mocked, it was being loved. She didn't sleep that night, not out of sadness but excitement. She packed boxes until her fingers ached, smiling at every order she shipped. The little business her family had laughed at was now glowing with life. She finally felt seen not by them, but by the world. As she stood by her window, looking at the city lights, tears filled her eyes again. This time happy ones. She whispered to herself, maybe I was never the failure they said I was. Maybe I was just growing quietly. Her candles burned across homes she'd never seen, bringing light to strangers who needed it. And with every flame, Faria felt a piece of her pain melt away. In just a few months, Faria's life began to change in ways she never imagined. Her small apartment could no longer handle the number of orders coming in every day. Packages filled every corner, and even the hallway outside smelled like her candles. People from different cities wanted her products. Magazines began writing about her, calling her the woman who turned heartbreak into light. Every sale, every message of support made her stronger. Her brand, Light Within, was no longer just a name. It was a movement of hope. With her savings and growing profits, Faria opened her first candle studio. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. The walls were painted white and gold, and sunlight filled the room. She hired young women who had struggled to find work, girls who had been told they were not enough, just like she once was. They worked side by side, laughing, creating and sharing their stories. Faria taught them how to make candles, and reminded them that every flame they made represented someone finding light in their darkness. For the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Not because of family, but because she built it herself. Soon, Light Within expanded beyond her country. Orders came from across borders, and celebrities started featuring her candles in their homes. One morning, Faria received an email from a television producer inviting her for an interview. On the day of the show, she sat under the bright lights, nervous but proud. She spoke about how she started from nothing, how rejection pushed her to create something meaningful. Millions of viewers watched her, and messages of admiration poured in from around the world. But even in all the joy, a quiet ache remained. At night, when she came home after long days, she sometimes scrolled through her family's social media pages. Her mother, Adira, still posted pictures of Christmas dinners, her siblings still smiling beside glittering trees. They never mentioned her, never reached out, but Faria noticed small details, candles glowing softly in the background. Were they hers? Did they know the light they admired came from her hands? She closed her phone and looked around her studio, where dozens of candles burned gently. Maybe they don't see me yet, she whispered, but one day they will. And as the golden flames flickered across the room, Faria realized she didn't need their approval anymore. She had already created her own kind of family, and her light was shining far beyond their reach. A full year passed since that painful Christmas, and life for Faria had completely transformed. Her company, Light Within, had become a household name. Her face appeared in magazines and TV interviews. People admired her story, and brands wanted to collaborate with her. Yet as the days grew colder and the streets filled with Christmas lights again, a familiar feeling returned, that quiet loneliness that came with the season. Everywhere she looked, people were celebrating with their families. Social media overflowed with happy reunions, laughter, and love. Faria's phone kept lighting up with invitations from business partners and celebrities. "Join our Christmas gala," one said. "Come to the luxury holiday dinner," said another. She smiled politely and replied to a few, but deep inside, she waited for a different kind of message, the one that never came. There was no call from her mother, no text from Nico or Rami. The family chat was still active, full of photos and jokes, but she had long been removed from it. One evening, she sat in her office scrolling through her siblings' new posts. Nico had shared a picture in a sparkling designer dress, holding a glass of wine beside a huge golden Christmas tree. The caption read, "Family the greatest gift." Her brother, Rami, showed off piles of expensive presents, bragging about how the Adira family knows how to celebrate in style. Faria's chest tightened for a moment. They looked so happy, just as they had the year before when they shut her out. She stared at the screen, her reflection faint in the glass, then slowly smiled. "Let them have their golden trees," she whispered. "I'll light my own world." That night, instead of feeling sad, Faria began planning something special. She didn't want a fancy party or cameras. She wanted warmth. She decided to host a charity Christmas gala, a celebration of giving rather than showing off. Her company would donate a large portion of its profits to orphanages, homeless shelters, and single mothers struggling to survive. She sent out invitations to people who had been forgotten by society, not the rich or powerful, but the ones who needed love the most. As the night of the gala arrived, Faria stood in a beautiful hall decorated with candlelight. Children laughed, volunteers smiled, and the air felt full of hope. She realized this was the kind of Christmas she had always dreamed of, one filled with light that didn't come from wealth, but from kindness. And even though her family hadn't invited her home, Faria had created her own, one that truly felt like love. It was a cold afternoon when Faria decided to visit her late grandmother's old house. It had been months since her passing, and the family never bothered to clear her belongings. Faria felt it was her duty, not just as a granddaughter, but as the only one who truly cared. The small wooden house smelled of old memories, faint perfume, dried flowers, and dust from untouched books. She walked slowly through the rooms, touching the furniture her grandmother once loved. Each corner held pieces of a life once full of kindness. In the study room, Faria found a small box hidden inside a drawer. It was tied with a faded red ribbon, her name written carefully on the top in her grandmother's handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a folded letter, yellowed with time. She unfolded it gently, her heart beating faster. The first line made her eyes fill with tears. "My dear Faria, if you are reading this, I may no longer be there to hold you." She sat down, unable to move, and kept reading. Her grandmother's words felt like a warm hand on her heart. The letter spoke of love, regret, and truth, truths her family had hidden from her. Her grandmother wrote that Faria's father had wanted her to inherit his property and continue his legacy, not because of wealth, but because he believed she had the purest heart among them all. But after his death, her mother, Adira, secretly changed the documents, transferring everything to her siblings. She had always told Faria that her father left her nothing, just to make her feel small and dependent. Faria's breath caught as she reached the next line. "You are the heart of this family, but they will only learn it when the light you carry blinds them." Tears fell freely now. It was both a blessing and a curse. Her grandmother's way of saying she was destined for something greater, even if her family couldn't see it. She pressed the letter against her chest, memories of her father and grandmother flashing through her mind. Their laughter, their kindness, their faith in her. For years, she had believed she was the forgotten one, but this letter showed she had always been chosen. Sitting there, surrounded by old furniture and fading photographs, Faria felt grief, anger, and strength all at once. She realized that everything her family took from her had pushed her to build her own path. As she carefully placed the letter back in the box, she whispered, "You were right, Grandma. My light will show them. Not through revenge, but through what I become." Back in her hometown, everything that once looked perfect in Faria's family began to crumble. Nico's fashion boutique, which she had built on borrowed money and pride, suddenly collapsed. Her biggest investor pulled out, suppliers demanded payments, and angry customers flooded her store with complaints. Within weeks, she went from posting glamorous photos online to hiding from calls. The same people who once praised her for her luxury brand stopped answering her messages. Nico tried to stay strong, but behind closed doors, she was drowning in debt. Her brother, Ramy, faced his own storm. The tax office began investigating his company after rumors of financial misconduct spread. His confidence turned into fear when he realized that his own employees had leaked documents exposing fake accounts he created to appear more successful than he really was. He spent sleepless nights talking to lawyers, trying to protect what little he had left. The man who once mocked Faria's small candle business was now begging for mercy in offices he used to walk through with pride. Their mother, Adira, was not spared either. Her once powerful social circle started to fall apart. The friends she entertained with fancy dinners stopped inviting her to gatherings. Whispers about her children's failures followed her everywhere. People who once admired her family's perfect image now spoke behind her back. For the first time in her life, Adira tasted what it felt like to be ignored, the same pain she had given her daughter years ago. As Christmas approached, she panicked. With her family's reputation falling apart, she decided to call for a family emergency meeting. She messaged Nico and Ramy, insisting they needed to fix things and rebuild the Adira family name. She even told them that this year's Christmas must be grand again, just like before. But what she didn't know was that the world she had ignored was now celebrating someone else, her own daughter. That same Christmas, in the same city where Adira planned her private gathering, a national Christmas awards gala was being held. The charity foundation that Faria had supported all year had chosen her as their guest of honor. Her company, Light Within, had funded homes, shelters, and orphanages, spreading light far beyond candles. While Adira was calling her broken family to fix a reputation built on lies, Faria was being honored for building hope from truth. Their worlds were about to collide, one built on pride, the other on purpose, and only one would shine brighter that Christmas. Christmas Eve arrived, glowing with lights across the city. The grand hotel ballroom was filled with music, laughter, and glittering decorations for the National Christmas Awards Gala. Guests in elegant gowns and tuxedos filled the room, but all eyes turned when Faria entered. She walked in gracefully, dressed in a flowing golden gown that shimmered with every step. Her hair framed her calm, confident face, and a quiet smile played on her lips. Cameras flashed as people whispered her name. After years of being unseen, Faria was now the woman everyone wanted to meet. She moved through the crowd with quiet elegance, greeting organizers, thanking the charity partners, and posing for photos. Her presence carried both grace and strength, the kind that comes from surviving pain and turning it into power. On the other side of the hall, her family had also arrived. Adira, Nico, and Rami came as guests of a wealthy acquaintance who had invited them without revealing who the night's honoree would be. They stood together, trying to keep up appearances, unaware that their world was about to change. As dinner was served, the host stepped on stage to announce the highlight of the evening, the award for Humanitarian of the Year. The lights dimmed, and a large screen began to play a short video about the winner's story. The audience watched clips of candle making, children in shelters smiling, and women finding new jobs in workshops. Then, Faria's voice filled the room, narrating her journey. The screen showed her logo, Light Within, and her face appeared with the words, Faria Adira, founder and CEO of Light Within, Africa's fastest-growing candle brand. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The audience erupted in applause, the cameras turned toward her table, and the spotlight found her. Faria rose gracefully, her golden dress glowing under the light as she walked to the stage. Across the room, Nico gasped and nearly dropped her glass. Rami's face went pale. Their mother, Adira, froze completely, her hands shaking as she realized what she was seeing. Her daughter, the one she had rejected and humiliated, was the star of the night. Faria accepted the award with calm gratitude, thanking everyone who believed in kindness, hard work, and second chances. Her voice was steady, her smile soft. She didn't look toward her family, but she could feel their eyes on her. At that moment, she didn't need revenge. Her success had already spoken for her. As the audience gave her a standing ovation, Faria looked up at the lights above the stage and whispered in her heart, "This is the light within you, Grandma." It finally reached them. When the event ended and the crowd began to leave, Faria stood near the hallway, still holding her award. People came up to congratulate her, and she smiled politely, her heart calm and full. For her, the night wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about peace. She had finally reached a place where she didn't need anyone's approval. As she turned to leave, a familiar voice called her name softly, Faria. She froze for a second, recognizing it immediately. Her mother, Adira, was walking toward her. The same woman who once told her she wasn't good enough. The same woman who had disinvited her from Christmas a year ago. Adira's face carried a mix of pride, guilt, and something else, fear. She opened her arms as if expecting a hug and said, "You could have told us you made it. We're family, Faria. We're proud of you." Faria looked at her quietly, her expression unreadable. "Family," she said slowly, her voice steady. "Do you mean the same family that shut the door on me last Christmas? The one that pretended I didn't exist?" Her words were calm, but they hit hard. Adira's smile faltered. "You know how things were." Her mother tried to explain quickly. "Your sister was busy, and your brother had problems. Maybe I was harsh, but I only wanted what was best for everyone." Faria took a deep breath, holding back the emotions that tried to rise. "No, you wanted what was best for you. You wanted control, even if it meant breaking me." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded letter, gently placing it in her mother's hands. "Do you recognize this?" Adira frowned and opened it. As she read, the color drained from her face. It was the letter from Faria's grandmother, the one revealing that her father had chosen Faria to inherit his property, but Adira changed everything after his death. The handwriting was familiar, and the truth could no longer be denied. Grandma wanted me to know the truth when I was ready, Faria said softly. Now I understand why you tried to make me feel small. You took away what was mine, not just the inheritance but the love that was meant for me. Adira looked down, unable to meet her daughter's eyes. Faria, please. But Faria stopped her gently. No, mother. You wanted me gone. You made me believe I was nothing. But now, I've learned to shine without your shadow. She turned to leave, her golden gown catching the light as she walked away. Adira stood frozen, the letter trembling in her hands. For the first time, she realized what she had truly lost. Not money, not reputation, but the daughter whose light she had tried to dim and who now shone brighter than ever. As the night moved closer to its end, the host returned to the stage, thanking everyone for attending the Christmas gala. The room buzzed with chatter and admiration for Faria's speech earlier, her success, her grace. People who once ignored her now wanted to stand near her, hoping for a photo or a word. In the corner of the hall, Nico, Faria's sister, stood fidgeting, clearly uneasy. Her friends whispered around her, their curious eyes darting toward Faria. The shame on Nico's face was visible. She could no longer hide behind pride or gossip. Trying to act confident, she suddenly stepped forward and called out loudly, Faria. The crowd turned. Nico forced a shaky smile and said, I just want to say how proud I am of my sister. We've had our differences, but family is family, right? Her voice trembled between guilt and showmanship. Everyone waited for Faria's reaction. Faria looked at her calmly, then gave a small polite nod but said nothing. She could see the desperation in Nico's eyes. This wasn't a real apology. It was a public act to save face, to look good in front of the cameras. For a moment, silence filled the hall, the kind that makes every second feel longer. Then the host, sensing the tension, stepped forward with a bright smile and said, Before we end tonight's event, we would love to hear a few words from our guest of honor, Miss Faria, the woman whose story has inspired us all this Christmas. Faria smiled gently and walked toward the stage. As she reached the microphone, the lights focused on her. She looked around the room. Faces she knew, faces that once turned away from her, and faces that now admired her strength. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice steady and warm. Some families celebrate together, she said softly. Others celebrate healing from the ones who hurt them. The crowd grew quiet, hanging on every word. Last year, I was uninvited from Christmas dinner. I thought that meant I had no family. But this year, I realized something powerful. I'm not alone. Because family isn't always blood. It's love, kindness, and peace. She paused, her eyes shining. Then she smiled wider and said, This year, I'm the one sending the invitations to every soul who was told they don't belong. May your light never be dimmed again. The hall erupted in applause. People stood, clapping with tears in their eyes. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment. Nico lowered her gaze, realizing that Faria didn't need revenge or attention. She had found something far greater: freedom, grace, and the power to forgive without forgetting. Weeks after the gala, life around Faria began to feel peaceful again. The noise of fame didn't overwhelm her. Instead, she felt grounded in calm and quiet joy. Her company's sales had tripled after the event, and people from around the world sent messages thanking her for inspiring them to believe in second chances. She had become a symbol of hope, not for being perfect, but for rising after rejection. One cold evening, while Faria sat by her window sipping tea, her phone buzzed with a new message. She looked down and saw her mother's name. Her heart skipped for a moment before she opened it. The message was short and trembling with guilt. Can we come visit? Faria stared at it for a long time. Her mind went back to that Christmas when she had stood outside their door, waiting, hoping to be welcomed in. The ache of that memory lingered, but it didn't hurt like before. She took a deep breath and typed a calm reply. Maybe next Christmas. Then she set her phone aside, not with anger, but peace. She had no bitterness left, only clarity. That night, she picked up her grandmother's letter again, the one that had changed everything. Carefully, she placed it in a beautiful golden frame, and set it beside her newest candle on the shelf. She had named the candle Homecoming. Its scent was soft and warm, like comfort after a long storm. Within hours of launch, it sold out completely. Customers said it reminded them of forgiveness and finding strength within. Snow began to fall outside her window, covering the streets in white silence. Faria looked out, smiling softly. "Last Christmas, I lost a family," she whispered. "This Christmas, I found myself." The words carried through the quiet of the room, settling deep into her heart. Soon after, a short video from the gala, showing Faria's speech and her message of healing, went viral online. People around the world shared it, writing the same caption under her picture. "Sometimes being rejected is the first step to being remembered." Messages flooded her inbox, from strangers who felt abandoned, from dreamers who'd been told they weren't enough, from people learning to rebuild their lives. Faria read them all, her eyes glistening with quiet pride. She didn't need revenge, apologies, or validation anymore. What she found was far more powerful: peace, purpose, and the kind of love that starts within. The girl who was once left out in the cold had become a light that warmed millions. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who's ever been rejected, overlooked, or made to feel small. Remind them that sometimes, rejection is just redirection. Comment, "I found my light," if you believe healing is the best revenge. Like, share, and follow for more powerful life stories that prove the ones left out often shine the brightest.